With me, without me. With me, without me. Number 92, Night and Day. Welcome to Long Play Video. Welcome to Long Play Video. As ever, we're running down my 100 favorite films of all time, and today we get to number 92, Night and Day. Came out in 2010. It stars Cameron Diaz, Tom Cruise, Viola Davis, Paul Dano, and a bunch of randomly other people. Directed by James Mangold, written by Patrick O'Neill. Box office was 261 million, a little bit different to the films we've been doing recently. On a budget of 111 million. A lot of people say it's a flop, which at 261 million is quite a claim. Kevin, what do you know about this film?
Well, I have seen this film, so this is I'm back on the list of films that I've seen. From what I remember, I mean, I don't remember too much about it, but I remember I think it was a pretty good film, and I'm trying to think now why I wouldn't have seen it more. So that I don't know if that's concerning me or it's just because there's so much content now you don't have to go back and watch the things again. But yeah, Diaz and Cruise, I mean, ultimate combination. I was thinking that they would be very different in height. For some reason, I had Cameron Diaz as very tall, but I checked this and there's actually 4 centimeters difference between them. So it's actually not that different at all. So I was thinking, how have they made sure that Tom Cruise is as tall as Cameron Diaz? But then that's not going to be necessary because they're basically the same height.
How tall is Tom Cruise? Did you see that? Is that like an urban legend that he's really short?
He's shorter, but I mean, you know, who's to say what's short? But I'll do metric for the rest of the world, and then I'll go into feet and inches for the UK.
It depends on our audience is.
He's 170 centimeters, which is effectively 5'5.5", or 5'6".
Yeah,
and she is 174 centimeters, which is 5'7".
Okay. Yeah,
so,
I would have thought that she was taller than that.
I would have thought she was taller than that.
The magic of movies that she seems really tall.
But yeah, I did. You're right. In my mind, I thought she was much taller. And this is back into the days when Tom Cruise did films other than Mission Impossible. So yeah,
well, I think
it's like a bit of comedy.
Yeah, it comes at an interesting time, I think, in both of their careers. Having a look at the DVD cover, if you can't remember too much about it, maybe describe it to the listeners.
These are the kind of blockbuster DVD covers that you want. It's so both of them on a motorbike, wrapped around each other, firing guns in the opposite direction, ready to take on the world. With, I guess that looks like, is that London in the background?
No, it's Rome, I think.
Rome? Yeah,
that's where the scene is.
Looks great. It looks like they mean business and they're going to take on the world. Can't wait to see it.
They look super serious. I don't think either of them look that serious in the film as a whole.
No, he's actually quite. Yeah, from what I remember, Cruise is quite comedy in this film, which is hard to almost quite remember because he's so serious now. He's done so many Mission Impossible films that you kind of forget that he used to have a good little comedy side to him.
Yeah,
or maybe not.
No, for sure. I mean, we'll get into.
You were just reminiscing then, having a little moment to yourself.
Just taking myself back. So the first time that I watched this, I thought that I'd seen it before, and then I watched it in Somerset House in the outdoor cinema, which is a really good setting for this, especially as obviously there's a scene where Tom Cruise is running on rooftops because it's Tom Cruise. But that was really great in Somerset House. Now the only time I can actually see it ever playing at Somerset House was for the premiere. So it must have been the premiere. It literally didn't play any other time. But obviously, outdoor cinema during the summer, you have a picnic and then you kind of sit there and so, funnily enough, I put it in my blog and kind of had it. I think I rated it 6 out of 10.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And was like, this is a lot better
Yeah.
because we're outside at Somerset House. But then, funnily enough, over
Ooh,
the years, it's just sort of been a film that me and my wife have watched a lot, and there are like bits of the film that we now just use in our everyday language,
perfect.
which is something that I really love. That where you just like have quotes and stuff in shorthand in
Yeah.
different relationships, friendships, as well as with partners and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just sort of, I mean, it's a very silly film. Yeah, I think what is really weird about it is that it's not quite anything. It's not quite a
Yeah.
spy thriller. It's not quite an action or a comedy or a
Yeah.
romance. Like it's almost in a Venn diagram of itself. It never actually goes into any quadrant, and it's so it
Or
kind of.
it's covering all of them.
That's the thing. It covers all of them, but not in
Yeah.
a good way. It just is spread incredibly thin, so it doesn't really know what type of film it is. But also,
Yeah.
there is like zero subtext to this film.
Yeah.
There is no deeper level. I almost expect the second half of the film of the podcast to just be like, yeah, that was fun. Okay, what are we doing
Yeah.
next week? Because there is
Yeah.
nothing underlying.
It's one of those things, isn't it? Like I think there's plenty of room for those type of films, and I think Jason Statham seems to have his handle on most of them these days. Maybe The Rock as well. Um, yeah, I think sometimes you just, you like you said, you're just having a nice picnic in Somerset House, or you're just at home and you've got a hangover and you're trying to get rid of it on a Sunday, and this is the type of movie you want to watch. Just like it's not going to challenge you too cerebrally, and you're just going to be sort of relaxed and go, right, let's just watch it and enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's exactly that. It's a fun film. It's entertaining, which I know that we've spoken about before. Like, you want a film to be
Yeah.
entertaining. I listened to a couple of podcasts on it, and people are like, "Well, it's not very realistic when," and I'm like, "No, it's just not very realistic." But
Yeah.
some of the beats that it tries to make, and maybe we'll talk about it more after we watch. But it
Yeah.
kind of it there is sort of a half parody, half serious take on James Bond and like spy
Yeah.
thrillers because he's a secret agent.
Yeah.
I think they
Quite that.
say he works with the FBI, but clearly he doesn't because he's not in America and he's in all over the world.
Yeah.
So, and then it's a comedy, but actually the action set pieces are actually really good. There's a couple of set pieces in it that are just amazing,
Yeah.
and really well shot. And then, I mean, is there ever a romance with Tom Cruise that you actually buy as a romance? I'm not sure. I'm not sure that whether
Yeah.
it ever kind of works.
I know people say that, don't they? They don't feel like he necessarily has it. And interesting is that these two obviously were together as well in Vanilla Sky as well, which I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that those two were in that film together. So
Yeah.
they had a couple of goes to try and build the chemistry, but
This is
maybe
not
it didn't
Vanilla
quite
Sky.
work.
In
No,
Vanilla Sky, doesn't she try and kill them both, and then she dies? I've only watched Vanilla Sky once. It was really trippy, and I
yeah,
just
I could
couldn't be
only remember
bothered.
little bits of it. But it's interesting. I was looking at their sort of IMDb and just where
Mm.
they're at this stage in their career. And as you said, this obviously came out in 2010. And when you look at Cruise, Cruise is like in like a good little run. He's got some really good films that he's coming off, like he's leading into this from. He's got Minority Report, Last Samurai, Collateral, some really good big hitters there. Then
Wait,
you've
but
got what?
that was at the beginning of the beginning of the decade.
Yeah,
Minority
well,
Report,
I'm
2002.
I'm I'm
That's 8
building, I'm
years.
building. Yeah. Well, I'm just looking at these are all that he only did like one film a year. Back in the day, that's what you used to do. So, but then yeah, then he's got War of the Worlds, questionable, Mission Impossible 3. The reason I take it back that far is because you look Last Samurai, Collateral, and Minority Report, they're all serious roles, right?
Mm.
Then eventually he gets to Tropic Thunder. Obviously, there's a little cameo there, and that's a bit more comedy there. So there's not that much comedy laced into his career at this point. Then he does Night and Day, which I guess not necessarily comedy, but I'd say it's more. There's some comedy in there. It's not just his normal run of the mill sort of action.
Yeah.
Then he does Rock of Ages 2 years later, and that is the end of his comedy career. He's like, "I'm not doing any more now. This was terrible. It's gone badly."
Hey,
But yeah, no, I think he was.
not a Rock of Ages fan.
Oh, I'm a massive Rock of Ages fan. I'm all over it, and I'm actually, yeah, as a big 80s music lover, I'm like, is this actually okay? Is he actually not too bad in this? Where he probably is terrible, but for some reason, I'm thinking he's not too bad. So I think, and he was just in a really good run. I think you got Tropic Thunder, Mission Impossible, Ghost Protocol, and then when I looked at Cameron Diaz, it just looked like this was maybe for her. She was more. Oh, and interestingly, yeah, she's in Minority Report, uncredited. I was like, oh, there you go,
Yeah.
another Tom Cruise film. But
Bus
yeah, she had
Passenger.
Charlie's. Yeah, I know. Yeah, who is that? So she obviously had like the Shrek films, and she's really deep into the sort of rom coms. You've got The Holiday as well, and then it's going on, and then you've got what do we had here? It was What Happens in Vegas, and then it comes to Night and Day. So I was like, I would say she didn't seem to be coming into a peak. She was almost like had her peak, and it was, she was obviously, I don't know, that might have just been the roles that she'd been offered or the roles that she decided to take, but she definitely seemed to be more in that sort of rom-com sort of area and not necessarily the greatest films. And he was obviously just, really really getting ready to start exploding into the Mission Impossible saga that is the million films that he now has done. So I just thought it was an interesting one, just seeing where they both come from in terms of where they're at in their careers. What were your thoughts? Do you think that's, they were both, I feel like he was maybe at a better point at this time than she was. Do you think that's fair? Or do you think they were both at equal heading at this time?
I think maybe more equal, because I think Cameron Diaz is the sort of interesting thing about Cameron Diaz is that it had been a while, I think, since the hit. I mean, The Holiday, I know lots of people
Mm,
that are that's their favorite Christmas movie.
yeah.
Um, but that had been kind of 4 years before. Obviously, she was kind of in
Mm,
all of the Shreks, kind of doing the voice work, and I think that kind of took over. But actually, like as far as yeah, sort of big movies, I think you've got to go back to probably the first Charlie's Angels in
yeah.
2000. So I think
Yeah.
it's sort of interesting that yeah, it's kind of 10 years almost after kind
Yeah.
of I think she's been the biggest actress in yeah, not in the world. I don't think that. I think that's probably too much. But like
Yeah.
she was a big
Yeah.
actress.
Yeah.
But I think it's also like very recognizable and has a niche that I think she's great in,
Yeah.
which is kind of that quirky, like slightly clumsy, but kind of comedy actress.
Yeah.
Um, and then yeah, I think with Tom Cruise, I think by that stage actually, like he was starting to lose his way a bit. I mean, Mission Impossible 3 isn't the greatest of films. He was then flipping between kind of really serious and comedy, because he
Yeah.
does lines for
Yeah.
Lands after Mission Impossible 3, and then Tropic
Yeah.
Thunder, which obviously sort of yeah, okay, he can be funny, and then Valkyrie, which is just sort of straight drama, then Night
Yeah.
and Day, and then Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol is kind of yeah, is probably the best film of that era. And then Rock of Ages and kind of Jack Reacher, which yeah, I mean
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Don't talk about
are
that.
what they are.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it almost kind of works. And if you think about other actors or actresses that it could have been, I think they kind of just hit at a really good time for both of them. Where is it almost a little bit retro, because both of them were kind of bigger movie stars 10, 15 years ago. Like I don't think you can say that they were the biggest stars of the time
No.
in 2010, but they are
Yeah.
both
True.
quantifiable movie stars
Yeah. Yeah.
in
You're right.
in
I
a way
think.
that almost I don't think you get anymore. But like they are like both of them,
Yeah.
they are very photogenic. The camera, they really react well to the camera. They know the beats.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting in sort of some of the comparisons that I heard was Mr. and Mrs. Smith, obviously with Brad
Oh
and
yeah.
Angelina, and then True Lies with Jamie Lee Curtis and Arnie.
Oh, great
Um,
film.
and that's the thing. Like I think, but with all three of the films that they have, is like both of them just hold their own and can, yeah, very much like, you know, they both have presence.
Yeah.
Like again, with someone that, you know, there's a few bits in this that, yeah, that are probably a bit more questionable, but also I don't really feel like it's kind of a, you know, male female. I think you could switch the male and female parts of this film and it would be
Yeah.
absolutely the same.
Yeah.
Because it is just supposed to be like ordinary person gets swept up in
Yeah.
you know, in a spy thriller, doesn't know anything that's going on. But then like Tom Cruise is, sort of plays it again, like he doesn't sort of lean into that where he, you know, he does some like James Bond ridiculous stuff
Yeah.
that you just like, you like, okay, that, you know, that would never, not even that would never happen, but like that's actually not, that means that you don't really want him to win necessarily. He does some questionable stuff, but
Yeah.
then at the same time, um, yeah, you know, he plays it for comedy. So then
Yeah.
like, but it's not a spoof either. So that's what I mean. Like, it just doesn't. It
Yeah.
never quite gets anywhere
It's
specifically.
covering everything. I'm telling you. It's doing it all. I think you're right. The comedy, I quite like, from the memory that I have of this film, is that I remember actually his comedy was quite good in that it was more of that sort of Tropic Thunder type comedy of like real, you know, like you said, not spoofy and like it was like, oh, this is actually just a bit like terrible. It was more like, yeah, this is actually, he's like delivering like the lines pretty well, you know. I think like from my memory as well, him and Diaz, I think had like a pretty good, like it felt like they had a pretty good chemistry. And as you say, sort of a bit romance, but then it also kind of isn't. So it doesn't, you don't feel like they have to like connected more. You think like, yeah, I feel like, you know, they're connected enough. And obviously, as you said, Cameron Diaz is a very strong actress and she holds her own easily in this film. And it's not just all about Cruise. And I think that dynamic works well, as you said, because you've got two, you know, whether A-listers or four A-listers or whatever you want to say, but two big stars, you know, going head to head, and you know, it doesn't feel like Cruise is coming across as, you know, I want to do more or this is my film. It feels like they share the space well, and actually, I feel like that comes off well in the film.
Mm.
Whether the actual content or storyline is up there to match that is obviously another question, but. Yeah, my memory is that it was a good dynamic between the two, and actually, Cruise was actually quite. It was nice, you know, thinking about all the Mission Impossible stuff he's done now, quite nice to see him in that sort of different light.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing is, the director, you know, the director is a good director as well. He did Copland.
Mm,
If you've seen that
classic.
with Sylvester Stallone, which is a good
Yeah.
movie. He then sort of does quite a lot of serious ones, including Girl Interrupted and Walk the Line. 310 to Yuma, I didn't particularly like, which was this film before this. But then
Yeah.
he does this, and then he does the Wolverine, which is yeah, maybe a bit more questionable, but then does Logan, which like at the
Mm,
time was like the most respected sort of
yeah.
superhero Marvel, non-Marvel movie. Um,
Mm.
and then he's just done the new Indiana Jones. So you know, he's
Oh,
still,
dear.
you know, he's still doing big work. I've not seen it yet, so I don't know whether it's
I've not
good. But
seen it.
yeah,
But yeah,
but you
so
know,
you
that's
said
he's, you know, but yeah, it does show that the, you know, the director's almost like got his
yeah,
chops, and I think you can
yeah.
tell that in like a lot of the set pieces that I remember, you know, that, and I think that, yeah, the story is stretched a bit thin in
Mm,
between the set pieces, but the set pieces are good. The fight on the plane, the running with balls,
yeah.
you know, yeah, you can tell that it's crafted really well. Does it do better or worse if they actually like make it one thing and not another? I must have been a nightmare to advertise and to kind of put out there, because who are you actually aiming at? You sort
Yeah,
of,
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Tonally, it's all over the shop, which makes it fun, and that's why it's on the list, is that it's fun and it's a bit
Yeah.
silly. But yeah, not every film has to have levels, you know.
And so you said you've watched it quite a few more times then, because yeah, you and Tiff have your little, you know, I'm presuming she's quoting Tom Cruise lines and you're quoting Cameron Diaz lines.
That's our dynamic.
Yeah, yeah. Mm,
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those typical. I mean, I think I'm the only person alive who still does this. But if I'm flicking through channels on the TV and it's on, I will definitely
yeah.
watch it.
And is there anything that you're particularly looking forward to seeing?
I mean, this will definitely be the time that I've paid attention to it the most. So I'm actually like quite interested just to watch it from,
Yeah,
oh,
that's
this is
true.
me actually kind of watching it.
Yeah.
And then I could have sworn that her name was Day in the film, that her
Yes.
name was June Day, but it is not. And I
No.
did a quick, well, not even a quick Google. I did a little bit of a Google, and no one knows why it is called Night and Day. Obviously, his name
Yeah.
is Night, but no one knows where the day comes from apart from the obvious pun. But like that's
Yeah.
a pun that is just like completely unnecessary if day doesn't feature anywhere else in the film. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to trying to spot why
Yeah.
it's called Night and Day,
Yeah, that's an
and yeah, try
interesting
and
one.
pick up on it.
You said obviously there's lots of different quotes that yeah, you and Tiff go back and forth with, and I'm just in my mind, I'm just picturing you guys basically reenacting the whole film in your house. So I'm really hoping that has happened that happened at least during COVID. Um, any specific quotes that you want to sort of highlight before we watch it?
Yeah, I mean, we do the "with me, without me" bit,
Yeah,
whenever we're like, "Are you coming with me?" And then we'll kind of break that out.
yeah,
We use when she locks herself in the bathroom and someone's like knocking on the door. There's actually a fight outside, and she says "occupado." Like that's yeah, we'll use that for her in the bathroom, and the other person's
okay,
knocking "occupado."
nice.
You know,
Yeah,
I think it's funny when he turns up and they're in the booth, and she's like, "He's the guy," and he's like, "I'm the guy," and then
yeah, I'm the guy.
tells him to stay in the booth, just stay in the booth.
Yeah,
And then no one follow me or I kill myself. And then the girl, which sort
yeah,
of almost like sums up how silly it is. And then
I
even
like that.
when he shoots the guy and he's like, "Oh, it's a through and through. You'll be golden. You'll get an award for this."
Yeah, I'm like, that scene is great. I'm like, everything about this I love. He's not waiting for people to react to his comedy. He's just delivered it, and it's got you've got it or you haven't. And then
Yeah.
he's just, yeah, like you said, he's delivering it as he gets out as well, and he shoots the guy. So yeah, it's won't
I
give too
mean,
many spoilers away, but
this is almost full maniac cruise. Like in every film, there's a
yeah,
bit where he goes crazy, right? That's kind of
yeah,
there's a bit that goes crazy. There's a bit where he's wearing sunglasses, and there's a bit where he runs. It's I think it's
yeah,
contractually in every single film,
yeah,
and this is almost him running and being a maniac the entire film. Like he never almost
yeah,
slows down at all. So that is just yeah, it's just fun. It's just fun to watch. He's
yeah,
very good at it. He's done it in a lot
yeah,
of movies. So yeah, yeah, I think it's just yeah, it's just a fun watch. I'm looking forward to it. It's a change of pace from last three films, definitely. Well, yeah, we'll put it in. We'll get comfortable. I think it will be a nice, fun watch. I think get your popcorn. This is a popcorn movie. This
yeah,
goes well. Just munching away on your popcorn. You're not going to miss anything
yeah,
if you have to open your Sprite or
yeah, yeah,
you miss some dialogue because you're eating your popcorn. And we'll
yeah.
relax and put it on. Well, that was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
Yep, I thought it was thoroughly enjoyable.
It's just so ridiculous in a lot of ways, and it is the
Yeah,
perfect thing of like it is every genre, but it's not every genre, and it's like a passable comedy, it's a passable spy thriller, it's passable
yeah.
action adventure, and yet like it doesn't. It's almost like it doesn't try and be one of those things, so you can't criticize it for not
Yeah,
being a
you
good
can't
version of that thing.
yeah. I must say, and I think, Cruz and Diaz, I think they're both, very good in this. I think they
Yeah,
both have pretty I mean, we'll come on to it a bit more, but I think their roles are both pretty solid, both fairly key roles, so it's not too, one-sided, and it's not too much I mean, we can come into it, but yeah, it's not too much damsel in distress, which is often in these sort of old sort of, romantic comedies. But yeah,
yeah.
I think you're right. As you said in the first half, the he's trying to be everything, isn't it? And I think, for me, I think, better just focus on the comedy more, which I think the comedy was enjoyable and removed like the first bit of romance when it happens. I was like, whoa, what? where did that come from? 'Cause I I was like, What this? How is they haven't even led this up. It's just begun." And I was like, "This is really weird, and it's been shoehorned in." I think he could have done better without the romance with just more comedy, personally. But it goes
Yeah,
straight into it. It comes, it opens up, and it's in the airport, and they bump into each other very early on. So there's no, I love that it just, the film has begun as soon as it starts. And you're like, great,
yeah.
let's sit down and get the popcorn out. Let's go.
Yeah, yeah, and it doesn't try and explain it. I think
Mm,
again, because it's not like the 2 biggest stars in the world, it's not like,
yeah.
it's not a film that is designed to have the biggest movie stars, in it as well, and I think that's quite good because
Mm,
obviously Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz are dear to our hearts, I'm sure, but actually, this is
yeah.
probably like 10 years after both of them have peaked, possibly. I mean, I was sort of trying to find
Arguably.
who would be the, like, biggest stars at that time, and it's difficult because it's box office, so it's all Marvel stuff, but, like, Robert Downey
Yeah.
Jr. and Scarlett Johansson, like, then it would have been like a vehicle for the biggest actor and the biggest actress, and it just wouldn't have worked, again, because
Yeah.
it's just there's not enough there for it to actually be that. Whereas with both of them kind of not having the best of times in kind of, yeah, sort of like 5, 6 years, from having a hit, but also both super recognizable, super
Mm,
good, super photogenic, and yeah, really good on camera.
yeah.
Yeah, I just think it works again because it's not trying to be just like a vehicle for big stars.
Yeah, and I think 'cause they're both big A-listers as well, right? So they're
Yeah,
both good, actors, and so I think from that really helps because you don't like you said, you don't often get 2 big actors in these sort of films. It's normally one's a bit bigger than the other, whereas here, they're both very good. They've obviously, as you said, they've actually done a lot of good films already. I thought it was good, and, as you said, it's like, well, who else could have done it? Would it what would have worked? And I think you're right, that dynamic of them both being very famous, but maybe not at their peaks, whether, they're previously or due to come. I think that works really well. I do think the characters were quite good as well. Like there was obviously there's a lot of opportunity for them to make Cameron Diaz's character a bit, the old school, the guy's going to come and save me and
yeah,
do all this. But I think they avoid that for most of it. I think there's a couple of bits where it gets a bit silly, but I think on the
yeah.
whole, they avoid that, and so I'm like, "That's quite good," and actually they build her character fairly well, which I think helps the film as well.
Yeah, I think because it's almost like it's just an ordinary person who gets
Mm,
swept up into it, and I think I
yeah.
said it in the first half. I think you could gender role swap. You could swap the genders, like, and I think it
Yeah.
would still work. I don't think there was. I think it's more that she's just, she's swept up in this thing, and it's not necessarily that she's a woman, and so therefore he's like the man and kind of having. Yeah, sort of he knows everything and she doesn't. It's like, well, what would happen if you were on a plane with the spy who just sort of liked you? I think you could have
Yeah.
two guys doing it completely as easily. To be honest with you, I just don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it would matter at all. So, and I think with Tom Cruise, I would say like there were some shots where my goodness, he's charming, and like he's got
Yeah.
that smile, and you're just like that
Yeah.
is old school movie
Yes.
stardom. And then when he says sometimes things happen for a reason at the beginning, he's just
Yeah.
super creepy and weird. And he manages to combine those two things really,
Uh,
really well, where you're like,
yeah.
are we supposed to be rooting for this guy? Because
Yeah.
it seems very odd, but also just sometimes he just breaks out that smile and you're just like, oh, go on then, Tom. We'll
Yeah.
buy into you.
Yeah, I thought the same. I had that written down as well. I was like, yeah, when he writes that, when he says that, you start thinking, oh, actually, maybe he's not going to be the person that we're going to know and love. And I think you're right. They set him up as maybe not like the best character, and that line really helps it. And you're right, he really delivers it. You're like, he's smiling but delivering. And you're like, did she be happy about this or not? We don't know. Then obviously we work out. Yeah, you probably should be happy, but
And then they have the callback to it
um,
as well, where he's like, I tried to warn you not to get on the plane. She's like, what? And
yeah,
he said, well, when I
yeah.
said everything
Yeah.
happens to a reason, she's like, no, that wasn't a warning.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
is
that's
just,
that. Well, I love what and then obviously they crack out into the the airplane scene pretty early on, and the choreography is obviously incredible, the
Yeah.
fight scene. But then I'm like, oh, it's great to know as well. Back in those days, you could shoot guns on planes, and there was no problems. So
Uh,
I
I
love
mean, as
what we
long as
got
you
to.
as long as you hit someone, as long as the bullet hits someone,
True,
then you're fine. You don't wanna
you're fine. It's like, how often now they have a gun on a plane and everyone's like, "No, remember you're not allowed to shoot." You're like, "Oh yeah, remember you're not allowed to shoot." And then whereas here they're like, "How many guns have we got?" And everyone's shooting everyone.
Just make sure
Um,
that you're shooting someone and it's not through and through, like,
yeah, yeah, exactly. Make sure it sticks.
and
And then obviously the plane sort of then lands and you're like, "Oh, okay, cool." And I was like, I loved the fact that they just at the end of it, they just added in the plane blowing up. It's just like
why not?
completely unnecessary. But yeah, exactly. Well, remember, this is a spy movie, so we need to add in some more special effects.
Yeah. Well,
So
even during
yeah.
the fight in the plane, when they go outside of the plane and they're shooting from outside at level with the
Yeah.
plane, that's a really good shot. Like that's a really
Yeah.
really well done. And it's the same with the car
Yeah.
chase
Yeah.
when they meet back up. The running with the balls, I think, is a good action scene. Although
Yes.
obviously some of the CGI could be updated, but again,
Yeah.
it's a really the set pieces in this are really really well done.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, no, it is just it's really well done. I think it's just
Yeah.
there are so many times to it. I was just smiling to myself, and I think it's I feel very good about it being on the list to show that it's not every film on the list has a double meaning or like has some underlying philosophical note to it.
Yeah.
This is just a movie that you should just watch, enjoy, and yeah, and it's funny.
Yeah. It felt a lot to be like a basic Mission Impossible script. And they just thought, right, we'll just remove half of this, put in some romance, some comedy, we'll whack in Cameron Diaz, and boom, we've got a new film. And it felt so much of it was like Mission Impossible. Like you said, you've got the car chase, you've got him. I swear there was some stuff in here they've used in the new Mission Impossible as well. Like when he's hanging upside down, I'm sure that's in like the latest one
Oh,
where
really?
he's in a or in one of them where he's in a jail and he's I don't know if he's necessarily upside down, but he's definitely chained and topless.
I feel like
Well, I
there's
mean,
one with the circle in the window as well. I'm fairly sure that
yeah,
that's been in something else. But again, it's like such a
yeah,
cool shot and just
yeah,
completely pointless. Just completely
yeah,
doesn't go
yeah.
anywhere. It doesn't have any point on the film whatsoever.
Yeah, and then he's there and then disappears. Do you think he was just sitting there lining up? It's like, right, no, can you see me now? No. Okay, do it to the left. No, yeah. Okay, you got me. Right. Don't move now, Tom. Okay, I'm not gonna move. Yeah.
You think Cameron Diaz is like, I don't think this is the most important thing, and he's like, no, it'll be really cool. It'll be
Yeah,
really
yeah,
cool
don't
if he
worry.
does it.
Yeah, he'll love it. And then you'll look at him going, come on, come on. Did I give him enough clues? Yeah, yeah. So okay, so you were happy then, happy that it's definitely on the list. But was there anything that you didn't think was great or was bad or you
I
just
mean, no,
you know
not really. So some of the
yeah.
questions I had is, where's he keeping all the post-it notes? He seems to be traveling with a lot
Yes,
of stationery,
yes.
as well as
Those are the
women's
days.
clothes as well, because he obviously changes
Yeah,
quite often,
yeah.
which is a worry. But again, it's
Mm,
not like he's a good guy. It's not like, you know what, I really want my sister to marry this guy. He
no.
seems like a
Yeah.
really top-notch guy.
No, yeah,
So
exactly.
the whole getting drugged and kidnapping them and stuff, like, yeah, it's not supposed
Oh
to
my
be
god.
good. It's not supposed
Yeah.
to be good.
And they used it so much. It felt like, it was I think it's Mission Impossible 2 where they do the face masks and
Like
everyone's basically pulling
loads.
off face masks every
Yeah,
like 4 minutes. I was like, is that what this is for this film? This is just everyone just gets drugged all the time. It's just like, oh
yeah,
yeah, funny scene that we're gonna add, you're gonna get drugged now. So
yeah.
it happens so often. Yeah.
But I think that the only other qualm I had was the movement alarm thing. Like that thing would just be going off all the time and would just be
True.
super annoying. It goes
True.
off like four
Yeah.
times in the film. I'm like,
Yeah.
I actually had that for when we were away and had it on an internal camera. And basically every shadow that changes, it's an alert. And I
Yeah.
had to turn it off. It was just super annoying. So Even when the sprinklers are turned on, he'd get a movement alert.
Yeah, it's true.
Literally, anytime the paper was delivered or the post was delivered, I could just see him being in a really like high profile spy fight, and then his alarm going off and him looking and it's the
Yeah.
post, and he's just
Yeah,
like,
it's
oh.
just like, "What's going on?" Yeah, and it's they don't obviously, they don't cover that off. That would have been in the sequel, I'm sure, but,
Mm.
yeah, he's just, "Oh, yeah, you just disowned your family base." And like, everyone's like, "Yeah, yeah, we're all happy with this, don't worry. They've won some lottery, so everyone's all good." Even though they've got all these stuff on the mantelpiece, and they're still like, absolutely distraught. And he's like, "Yeah, don't worry about it. I'm hanging around in airports, I'm moving knives around with like perpetual batteries. It's all fun and games. Don't worry, it's good."
And the fact
Um,
that all of the photos of him are from super when he was super young. You're like, but you said
yeah,
that he
yeah,
he died in Iraq, so like
yeah, that's true.
presumably you had older photos of him. Why would you have one of him
Mm,
as a scout? And it does just annoy me that her surname's not Day, because I don't the whole
yeah,
night and day. Like
yeah,
presumably at some stage her name was Day, and then they made her first name June, in which case you can't have June Davis. That's just ridiculous.
yeah,
And
yeah,
did they sacrifice her surname being Day so that they could do like an April June gag for the sisters, which again is completely
yeah,
pointless. And
yeah. That
then
is pointless. Yeah,
maybe it works at the end if he says, "What day is it?" and she says, "It's some day," and then they end the
yeah,
film, but they have to get the
yeah,
gag in about her getting him into his shorts and stuff like that. And again,
yeah,
I'm just like, why is this film called Night and Day? I have literally
yeah.
no idea.
He seemed to. I mean, I had a look at this. I think you said already about that. It was like that play on words of night and day, as in,
Yeah, yeah, no, I get
starting with
that,
an
but
N. But they don't portray it in the film really in that sense, because she gets pretty, she ends up shooting the guns and stuff, and she's on the bikes and in the car, so it's not really
she's
like,
got skills, as he
yeah,
says.
exactly, as he says, yeah. So it's actually not that she's actually miles away from him. So, and the DVD cover, as we know, as we've covered,
Yeah.
that doesn't really illustrate the same either. So yeah, it's a bit of a strange one, but yeah, it was there. I mean, I thought it was thoroughly good. I enjoyed it. Was there anything else that you noticed this time round that I mean, I know you said you've already watched this quite a few times. Was there anything new that you saw?
Yeah, the island, when they go to the island, I think it's like that's pure Bond, right? It's including him walking
Yeah,
out of the
yeah,
sea. And I think it's funny again, it's got that little bit of kind of humor to it that she's running away from it, and then it's just a really small island. And obviously in most
yeah,
Bond films, when they go to a Caribbean island, you don't know how big the island is. So
yeah,
actually
yeah.
if you
It's
just
true.
ran away, it
Yeah,
could be super small. Which
yeah.
I thought was really good.
Yeah,
I'd
that was a good little
forgotten that
gag.
the end was actually in Seville, which we went to this year, and it's lovely.
Mm.
I definitely
Oh, there you
recommend it.
go.
I noticed I recognised some of the places that we'd been when they were
Oh, yeah,
dragging her
nice.
around, and she was just talking. Um,
Yeah, they do go to a lot of different places, don't they? That
yeah,
was, I was like, wow. I mean, I guess it's classic sort of spy film, isn't it? We
yeah.
just continually go to different locations just to film with more explosions with different backgrounds, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No.
Again, I think a little bit of a sort of rip off of of a Bond and kind of you go to
Mm.
all these different locations, which I think is just super fun.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
think one of the things that, from a timing wise, after her betrayal with the click of the pen,
yeah,
they move quite quickly from there. They don't drag it out, which I think is really good from a
yeah,
pacing point of view. Actually, I think there's only like 20 minutes or so left after they have that. And I think that's a really smart
yeah,
decision because they could have
yeah,
dragged it out. They could have had, then she
yeah,
tries to find him and then it doesn't happen, then it does happen. But they actually get going quite a lot from that. So I think
yeah,
that was a good decision. How
yeah. No,
about
you're
you?
right.
Anything that you noticed on this rewatch?
I think, as you'd mentioned, the action scenes were a lot better than I remembered them being. Like, they actually, other than, yeah, there were some really bizarre ones, like you said, when they're on the bike and you're looking at the background, going, they really don't look like they're on the bike at the moment. And yet some of them, like the car flipping over his head, looked perfect. I was like, yeah, this was like this has actually happened. So there were some weird things I think that they left out, but I thought, on the whole, the action scenes were a lot better than I remembered, and a little bit more. Um, unique and added that layer of comedy. Like, you know, when he gets knocked off the car and then he's on the side of the other car and the kid hands him back his sunglasses. And
Sunglasses,
I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, that's great. And then out of nowhere, that car's running at the same pace as this other car that's running away, which makes no sense. But, you know, it just adds to the comedy of it all. So, yeah, I definitely think that I thought they covered off those scenes really well, actually. Yeah, I think even the Bulls one, we'll get onto it, but there's my favorite quote comes from that scene as well. So, yeah, no, I thought it was good. I thought that the scenes were much better than I remembered, as I say. But yeah,
Nice.
so how would you describe this to an alien then in 30 words or less?
So I've gone for, in fiction, a MacGuffin is an object, device, or event that's necessary to the plot, but is insignificant and unimportant. I just really think it's important the aliens know what a MacGuffin is, because there's no point explaining what this
Oh
movie is
dear.
about. But they should
Yeah.
really understand that sometimes in human fiction,
Yeah.
something is just made up to make the story happen. And don't
Yeah. We
worry
don't need to
about
worry
that.
about
Don't
it.
worry about the perpetual motion battery. That's
Yeah,
not the point.
exactly.
You're just here for the
Yeah.
ride.
Yeah, like there's no way that a perpetual battery could exist, but let's just not worry about that. Let's just move on from the sides.
What did
Yeah,
you go for? Were you giving them slightly more detail, presumably?
I started off with one that was a bit too detailed, and I was thinking, oh, this is like I'm writing it as if, you know, like it's
This
for the
makes
actual
sense.
movie. Yeah, exactly. So I totally changed that, and
Good.
I've gone for two people go on holiday around the world. Oh, and one of them is a spy. So
Nice.
that's what I've gone for, because I was like, they go everywhere, and it's only like a week or something because or
Yeah.
3 days, isn't it? Because in the
Yeah.
first, because
Because
it's she had
the marriage.
the yeah, exactly. And so I'm like, they cover off so much ground. I'm pretty sure it'd be impossible, but you know, there you go. It doesn't really matter, does it? But yeah.
The important life lessons that you took from it.
There's quite a few on this one, I must admit. So, like, obviously, you can shoot guns on planes. So that's good. I'll start bringing that on my plane now. So that's great. You could easily survive a plane crash. Another great thing to do.
With the plane crash as well. The scarecrow going against the window again, like that shows
Yeah,
that don't take this seriously. We're just
yeah.
completely having fun here.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It just crashes normally and it's fine. And that they're not even really. I mean, okay, they're all sort of strapped in, but they're like, oh yeah, just moving around a bit. It's almost like Fast and the Furious, where you know that they crash
Yeah.
at like high speeds and don't have seatbelts on, and they're absolutely fine. So yeah, you can survive a plane crash, and getting sleeping drugs is way too easy. So everyone seems to get them. She just finds them as well. She's like, "Yep, I've got some now." So, what about you? What were your life lessons?
I mean, obviously, the one that the movie's pushing is sometimes things happen for a reason, which is literally the most nonsensical advice. Yeah, obviously things
Yep.
happen for a reason. It's called cause and effect. That is
Yeah,
literally everything happens for a reason.
yeah,
But I've instead I've gone for sometimes you just have a fun movie that doesn't mean anything, and
yeah,
that's fine,
yeah,
and it's good. Just enjoy it. Don't overthink it.
yeah, yeah. I honestly thought you're right. You've nailed it on the head with that. I mean, obviously, you can't use that as the tagline, but
That would be a great. I would go and watch that movie if that was the tagline of a movie. Don't overthink it. It's fine. Okay, yeah, I'm going to go watch that.
come in and enjoy yourself. Yeah, no, I thought you're right. There's nothing in here that like I said, other than the romance bit that really doesn't work. Everything else is just fine. Like you said, it moves on at a really nice pace. The story is very clear, whether it's believable or realistic doesn't really matter. You know what's happening. You know who the good guys are. You know who the baddies are. It's all set up very nice and easy at the start. And you just move through the film. So
Yeah, I wanted to ask
yeah,
that the baddie shooting his partner and revealing
mm,
himself to be the baddie.
yeah.
Talk me through. Is that more or less of a surprise than Emilio Estevez not having been body transferred with Anthony Hopkins? Because it's so obvious
Oh
that he's the
dear.
baddie. Like all the way through, he's just
Yeah,
really cross and miserable, and it's just
yeah.
clearly a baddie from the
Oh,
very
yeah,
first
yeah.
time.
Yeah, I'm sure if I had subtitles on, it would have been like ominous music every time he enters the room. and you'd be like, "Oh, this is that guy." Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the Emilio Estevez one, whoa, they really shoved that down your throat, don't they, before it begins? So I think that still wins, but it is a
I'd
close
love
call.
after he'd shot his mate, I'd love them to just
Mm.
come to a roadblock and Mick Jagger be there and just be like,
Yeah,
"I knew that was
yeah,
gonna happen."
yeah, just a little cameo, and you're like, "Oh, yeah, here it is." Yeah. So did you think about a different genre then that this could work in? I know obviously it's trying to cover off a few anyway, but was there
I
anyone that you specifically thought of?
I don't. I think because it is no genre,
Yeah,
I think it's
you
perfect.
can't.
That it literally has
Yeah,
every genre. Like even there's a little bit of horror on the train. The killer
yeah,
is basically
yeah,
chasing a blonde lady.
yeah.
That's out of every horror movie ever. I also when they were running away from the balls, I actually thought this would make a great game. Did they ever make a game out of this? Because this would just
Oh,
be
they
like
must have done,
this
surely.
would like a golden eye type game on the N64. I would be all over
Yeah,
that. So
yeah,
is it
yeah,
even a computer game movie? It kind of felt like it was by the time that they were running away from the balls, and then they
yeah,
were like following the other cars on the map on the GPS.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I think literally this film is every genre there has ever been, all at
yeah.
once, which is why it's great.
If we when we get to our first million downloads, we'll commission the video game and we'll make it happen, and we'll give someone the opportunity to be a cameo in the video game as well.
We'll start finding Tom's people, and he'll sign
Oh
it off.
yeah,
I'm sure he would.
he'll be keen as yeah. Yeah, the only thing I could think of this one was because you're right, it covers off so many genres anyway. So I was like, the only thing I could think was it was the same scenario of those two, but it was a zombie apocalypse.
Ah, nice.
So instead of people, you know, them trying to get the perpetual battery that can't ever exist, you go, oh, it's just them trying to get away from apocalypse, but with a bit of comedy still involved, and
Oh, that'd be
maybe
great.
less romance.
The zombies chasing the balls as they're escaping from the balls as
Yeah.
well, and then the
Well,
balls
they
are
could be
like
zombie
tossing
balls.
zombies in out of the way for them. Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
strong. I'd go.
Yeah,
That can
so I
be a
thought that
level
could be pretty
in
cool.
the game. That's fine.
Yes, that would be a secret level if you find it.
Which character did you identify with most, or would you most like to be?
I had to say Roy, right? I mean, he's obviously the spy, and he gets so many of the funny lines as well. So, I think really, yeah, it had to. It was a fairly easy one for me. What about you?
I've gone with the dad. He just keeps getting stuff. Just keeps getting stuff turn up in the post.
Yeah.
I love
There's
when she's like, "So
no idea if he's yeah,
this
if
is
he's got
Roy. This is
Alzheimer's or not.
this is Roy Miller's house," and he just turns the TV off and he leans forward. He's just like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah. It's great, isn't it? And you're right. Where he is the remote control, he's not muted it. He's definitely turned it off. You're like, what are you doing, you weirdo? Yeah, okay. So you've got Roy's dad. Well, I mean, you've had a lot of holidays and a lot of good lottery wins, so
Yeah,
it would have been a
yeah,
pretty good
exactly.
life after your son dying, probably by the look of it from the photos at the age of about 9. But
I mean, if he's serving in the military that
yeah,
young, what do you expect?
yeah. Well, he's this legend, didn't they? What about them favorite lines? Any good favorite lines that you had?
So I love the interchange on the plane where he says we've lost
Yeah.
the pilots, and she says, "Where did they go?"
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
he says they've been shot, and she's like, "By who?" It's so brilliant because she's not
Yeah.
questioning like why they've been shot or anything.
No.
And then he's like, "Well, by me." Well, actually, I shot the first
Yeah.
pilot. He shot the second one.
Yeah. That
But
scene is a really good scene, actually, and I think
yeah,
he delivers it well as well, because you actually believe that he's, like, probably a little bit fatigued. He's sitting
yeah.
there, and then he's also like, "Yeah, okay, so how do I just broach this to a complete innocent bystander that" So I think he nails that scene really well, and then obviously
Yeah,
you're right, she's the perfect foils for it as well. That
yeah,
that was a very good scene, yeah.
yeah. And he's just like,
Definitely.
you know,
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
sometimes these things happen. You're like, no, no, they
Yeah.
don't. The weirdest
Yeah.
line, which I actually rewound the DVD like 4
Mhm.
times. So when
Yeah.
they're in the pie place,
Yeah.
I love the fact that he like kicks the waiter and he's like, sorry, I thought he was making a move. I thought he was making a
Yeah.
move. But
Yeah.
then he says, he was just making pie. Everyone gets pies, no ice cream, a la
Yeah.
mode. It weakens the legs, people. Lincoln knew it, and that's why they got to him. And I was just like, what on
What?
earth is that about?
Is
So,
that some kind of weird lactose intolerant that you're talking
well,
about?
so I did a bit of research. Abraham
Oh, yeah.
Lincoln's mum died from like there was like a milk disease back in the day that you would get from
Yeah,
like
wow.
infected milk. Weakens the legs like but there's no conspiracy theory about Abraham Lincoln being killed because like the big dairy got to him.
Hold on a minute. As Creed just unleashed everything. Was this part of this Scientology was becoming bigger for him at this point? So maybe he got access to some documents that we don't know about.
So I just was like that for me almost like because when you watch it, like the first I don't know, the first 20 times I've watched this, I was like, oh, it's really funny because he kicks the guy and then he's apologetic. And then obviously
Yeah.
the line after is if anyone follow us, I kill myself and
Yeah.
then the girl, which is sort of
Yeah. Which is
takes
great.
the notice. But then like he's just babbling about this other thing that you just don't notice. And I think it sums up the film quite well. That sort of
Yeah.
line would be in there and no one would notice. So
And everyone should have pie. It's a great idea. Yeah, you're all gonna be a bit traumatic. You should
but
have
you've
some
got
pie
to,
afterwards.
you got to have ice cream with pie. I mean, you have an apple pie.
I mean, you're
And then no
asking
ice
me. I
cream.
mean, I have ice cream with everything, so
Yeah,
that's I mean,
yeah.
I would have it as a breakfast if it
And you
was.
have very weak legs. So
Yeah,
actually,
it's exactly there you are. It's all come full circle. Now I know. Just
how
being
about you?
Abraham Lincoln.
Any favorite lines?
My one that I liked the most, which I thought was really funny, was just a play on words when they're on the motorbike and they're just about to be, or they just see the balls about to run at them, and he just looks at them and says balls, but he means it as in BULLS, but obviously, really, it's BALLS. So I really like that. I thought that was a good, clever little line. So that tickled me. That just shows you my basic sense of humor.
Reading that in the script, they all must have looked up and been like, "Yeah, nicely
Yeah,
done."
yeah, good work. Yeah,
Well
well done.
played, sir. Well played.
Yeah. So was there anything you thought that didn't stand up to the test of time? Any references or anything like that?
No, I mean it's all ridiculous, isn't it? So I don't really don't think that we should nitpick this film because
Yeah,
otherwise it will just unravel like a bad scarf.
yeah,
So no, I mean, yeah, I didn't.
yeah.
Was there anything that was particularly annoying to you, or can we just believe that
No,
actually it's fine and just let it go?
yeah. The only thing is, as I said, yeah, there was the one scene when she lets off the machine gun and she's just constantly firing the machine gun. I was like, oh, this is a bit the damsel in distress type thing
Mm.
where she doesn't know that she's just firing a gun. It's like it's a shame because the rest of her character, I thought for most of the film, they'd actually covered off quite well. So I thought that was a bit rubbish. But yeah, other than that, everything else is just in the same sort of level throughout the entire film, isn't it? So nothing
if
to worry about there.
if there was something that you could swap out and improve from what is it 13 years later, what anything
Yeah,
you'd
I
give it?
think. I mean, obviously, yeah. As I said, he's got to. I think on this film, just get rid of that romance. That definitely is not needed, and there isn't time for it because it's pretty snappy and it moves along, as you said. So just add in more comedy, and then I don't know. Maybe you would
You're
change.
thinking, does that mean you're thinking it's going to be another Rock and Kevin Hart vehicle
No, I've seen
in the
enough of
updated?
those movies. I definitely don't. I don't need to see any more movies with those two together. Nothing against them; they're great, but there's so many times you can see them in a movie together.
Let's all move on
Uh,
now.
yeah, I don't know who would do it. It'd be a good question. But yeah, the other thing I guess that you change to the petrol battery for something like a resolution for climate change or something like that. I thought would probably
Nice.
be more relevant to now. But yeah,
Let's hope
what
that's
about
not a
you?
MacGuffin, and there is actually a solution to
Yeah.
climate change.
Yeah, let's hope so. Yeah. How about you?
I,
Anything you'd swap out?
Yeah, I thought the soundtrack could have been a bit more banging. To be honest with you, I think there could have been a few more
Oh
like
yeah.
noticeable tunes on there. I felt like that was the only thing that was kind of missing from it. Like, it's an action movie. There's lots of different sequences, and I don't think I could tell you one song that was on it. I guess it was just all
Oh,
scored. But
you're gonna have to rewatch this because I'm gonna blow your mind now. There's the bit when he's about to find Simon and they get attacked by all of the SWAT team, and Private Eye by Hall and Oates is playing, and it's all about them. They're watching you, and it's the
Oh,
whole
yeah, yeah.
I was like, "That was so well set up." So you have to your homework is go and watch it again just with your eyes closed.
Just stop at that scene.
Yeah.
I mean, the reviews are as you'd expect,
Yeah.
fairly
Yeah.
one dimensional for the 1 stars and for the 5 stars. For one
Yeah.
star that I did like, awful. I wouldn't bother buying this or even renting it. It's actually pretty dire. The film has a serious identity crisis, and then can't decide what it wants to be. I mean, that's the entire point.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
That's
yeah.
the
Yeah,
entire point.
it's not looking to win Oscars.
Yeah. Um, the worst movie in a long time, obvious after 5 minutes. I did actually then go back and see that's as they get on the
Yeah.
plane. That person's given up on the film. And
What?
so it seems ridiculously. I'm not sure that
What?
it's obvious after 5 minutes. But yeah.
No,
So
I think it's gone quite nicely, and then the airplane scene is a really good scene.
yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
maybe they turned off after 5 minutes and missed everything else. But
I
that just
miss it,
seems
yeah.
ludicrously early to have it. And
Yeah.
then another one, watch this on TV but couldn't bear to finish it. Tom Cruise is very irritating. The female lead has too much eye makeup.
Well, how do
That's
they not know who Cameron Diaz is?
well, it says, and then in brackets, Cameron Diaz. Hope to never see her again. You're like,
What?
what?
Yeah, who are you? Like, how
Yeah,
do you not know who she is?
yeah. And then a couple of the 5 star. The headline of the review is yes, and then the body of the review is yes. And I
Oh,
have a friend
brilliant.
actually who I'm going to ask if they left that review, because that is
Oh.
exactly the type of review that they would leave.
Yeah,
And then I love this one. Tom Cruise plays Miller, a rogue agent holding stolen tech. He uses
yeah.
Cameron Diaz's character to sneak onto a plane. She gets caught up in his plan, and he spends most of the rest of the film protecting her from bad guys. Hence, a believable premise for a number of thrilling and often hilarious action sequences.
Oh, dear.
Where is
Great,
the?
yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, that
This
he
is
or she.
believable, yeah.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is the believable premise. They've done really well there. And then
Yeah.
another one, last one. Suspend your disbelief. Brackets totally. Sit back,
Yeah,
relax,
fine.
and enjoy an hour and 3/4 of rather silly fun. Yes,
Yeah, that's
that
a
person
great
gets it. That person
yeah,
gets it.
yeah. Yeah, that's a great. I had a couple of classic ones I thought I'd just add in just to make sure that we cover off the necessary Amazon reviews. Bought as a gift, great price and shipping. Thanks. 5 stars. It's
Five
just what is wrong
stars.
with people? Oh dear.
Love
Can
it.
you just stop reviewing
The
Amazon's
ability for
functionality?
Amazon to deliver things to an address.
Oh my god, it's so funny.
Better or worse if it came out today? What do you think? How do you think it would do? Considering it's just over
Hmm.
200 million. It's not in his top 10, which are
No.
basically all Mission Impossible movies, barring Maverick.
Cocktail, great film. I think it's hard to say because I don't know if he'd still nail the comedy now. I feel like he actually nails the comedy quite well in this film. I
Yeah.
don't know if he's too serious now, but I do think he's bigger now than he was then. I
Oh, do you?
think, yeah, I think
Oh,
so.
interesting. Because Mission Impossible
Mm.
kind of brought him back a bit. Because this is Mission
Yeah,
Impossible 3, right? Which I think is
yeah,
a pretty dire one. Although it's got Philip Seymour Hoffman as the
yeah.
baddie, and he's
I
really good
think
in it.
two's the worst, right? You got John Woo, and there's just doves everywhere. Like two is just definitely it was
It's good
awful.
old John Woo and his dubs.
Yeah, and he's done. Which there was a scene here where they use pigeons, and I thought
Yeah.
that was
Yeah,
quite a good
yeah,
one.
definitely. I definitely
Yeah.
thought that was a nod to it.
Yeah. So I think he's bigger now than he was then. Not saying that he's biggest now, but I would say he's bigger now than I thought he was when this was made. So I think he'd make more money. I just don't know if it would be as good. I don't know if he's still got that charm that he had. I don't know. He may do, but
Mm.
who knows? What about you? What do you think?
I think, yeah, I don't know really. I think this would now be a streaming movie, unfortunately. But as I say,
Mm,
I mean, yeah, as I say, I watched it in an outdoor cinema in Somerset House,
yeah.
and when he's running across the rooftops, it was amazing.
Yeah, that
So
would
that
have
was on
looked
a big
good.
screen and outside, and I do think it is a
Yeah.
big movie, and I think now it would be a streaming movie, which would be a shame because actually, I
Yeah.
think it's better on a big screen and it's better in a cinema, and people should go and watch it in a
Yeah.
cinema.
So then the question on everyone's lips, does it stay in the top 100 and does it stay in the same position?
Yeah, yeah, it does. I think it can shuffle up because of the couple that have dropped significantly. But it's such a fun movie. And that's the thing when I was thinking, slightly more serious movies that I actually had in the list, and then I was like, would I actually look forward to watching that? And I was like, no,
Yeah,
I just don't think I would. And then
yeah,
this is one of those that, yeah, when I even said to my wife, like, "Oh, I'm watching Night and Day tomorrow for the podcast," she was like, "Oh, great, yeah, I'll have a watch. That's a really fun
yeah,
film."
yeah, yeah.
So
You're right.
yeah, I think it's a fun film. Yeah, I like where it is, and
Yeah,
I think it works. So I think it's all
yeah.
good.
No, I think it's good. I think it's a film that I'm probably going to watch again now in a in a not too distant future. That I'd like a lot of movies, as we said, you don't really watch them again that many times. But you're right. It's just nice, light-hearted, film, and I think both the actors are good. So yeah,
Awesome. Great. Well, and on we go. So as always,
yeah.
thanks to Tom Evans for the theme song. We're killing it, and we go on to the next. I'll see you next week.